Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to the SZ Show. This is the first episode of the SZ Show. We will be talking about a bunch of random topics here, including religion, spirituality, um, basically food, career advice, business, how to meet the love of your life, a bunch of other topics like that, bro. So, stay tuned for that. And I'm gonna be bringing upon multiple guests to talk about their life journeys, talk about their careers, different sort of things like that. So let's dive right into it. Okay. So this is the first episode. So the first episode is I'm gonna introduce a podcast, introduce myself, my journey, talk about those sort of basic things. And so basically, my name is Salman Zuberi. I'm a senior. This sounds like my interview pitches, like when I sort of like pitched the interviewer about myself. But anyways, this is gonna sound like kind of like that. But um, I go to the University of Illinois in Chicago. 2 weeks away from graduation, so congratulations to myself in advance. But I've been studying like business analytics there, and it's been quite a journey for sure. I'm gonna dive right into like the trajectory of my life and how everything has unfolded because it's been crazy. The people that know me know it's been like really sort of um uh crazy journey for me for sure. But okay, so first things first, I was born in Karachi, Pakistan, and I will go along the events step by step. So growing up, I was basically pretty chill. I was an introvert. Like I had massive social anxiety growing up. I remember, and I was like really attached to my family and my family members. And when the first sort of dynamic came of sort of like leaving my family and going to a school, and basically, obviously, you had to be like in person there and everything, not like remote and virtual nowadays. But basically, I went to Sandra Montessori in Karachi, Pakistan, which was so my parents were like basically really big fans of Parsi education because it was understood, it was like widely regarded in Pakistan, especially in Karachi, that Parsis, their level of education, their administration was really like well structured, and it was like quite spectacular the way they sort of crafted out the individuals and what led to the sort of character development within their lives or whatever. But anyways, back to the point. I went to Sandra Montessori and stuff, and I still remember like me just trying to like run away from the school a lot and just trying to like just um stay attached to my family members and like not go into a place where I'm going to be interacting with like multiple people, because I don't know, like at that point, at that time, like I did not like go to kindergarten or nothing like that. I was like just straight off the bat placed into Montessori, and there was no like sort of gradual process to that. And so therefore I was not like sort of put into a place where I would like just continuously like get comfortable, and then gradually I would sort of go into this place where I had to like deal with academics and stuff right from the first day. So that happened, right? And then when I had to deal with academics, learn my ABCs, all that, I remember there was this clay making sort of class that like I don't have a lot of memories from my childhood that are really like deeply embedded in my brain. But like one of them, the earliest one of them, is basically this clay making class that was in the Montessori, that I really enjoyed. Never did clay making after that. I'm just gonna take my coffee pauses, while I'm going to the podcast because we need some caffeine to kick in. You feel me? And that sound for was for the ASMR people. Anyways, so Montessori was quite a wild ride. I remember there were these like three sort of sections, and we were all like one class, right? I'm talking about my class. Obviously, there were like upper classes and stuff in the Montessori too. I totally forgot how it worked, but so there were these sections A, B, and C, and I remember I was placed into like A or B, and then I was not like up to my academics and everything. And then this third section was full of like quote unquote like stupid kids. That's where the Montessori put the stupid kids. Like people who just were not good at academics and stuff, and like they were placed there, and they would constantly rotate between these three sections for some reason. And then I was like rotated to B again after I improved my grades or something like that. But anyways, so that was like kind of strange to me now that I reflect upon it. And Obviously there could be like, certain like psychological sort of factors behind like how they would like, do those different sections, but I don't know if it was really effective in sort of development, academic development of the child. But anyways, we're gonna like stop psychoanalyzing this and move on from that. So after Sandra Montessori and stuff, since my mom went to Mama Parsi, which was like a sort of another like Parsi school in Karachi, she wanted like, me to like have a Parsi education as well. And so I got like placed into BBS Parsi. I think BBS Parsi High School, which is the high school that I went to in Karachi. This was the only sort of school that I like my parents like, wanted me to like give the admission test for. Or maybe there were like one or two other than that I do not remember the name of, or something like that. But this was a big deal. Now, this is still a big deal if you go into Karachi and if you ask like the residents from there and stuff. If you want to get into this school, it's in super high demand and stuff. Like I remember there were like long ass lines where you had to like stand and get the sort of admission procedures in, and get those fucking papers in and everything at time, and then they would choose you for an interview. It was like a whole long process and everything. But since my mom was already from like a Parsi school, and like I think like she and like me, her and my grandmother used to work at like a Parsi sort of hospital, nearby, which is Uncle Terry Nursing Home. They used to like work as a gynecologist there and everything. So I think because of that, because they had like, sort of like work references and everything, maybe that made like a sort of the process easier for me. I don't know, right? So, anyways, got the admission. To this day, it's really hard to get admission there. And a lot of people sign up, they just do not pass the test, or like interview problems, whatever. Got in, right? And then first grade happens, and now I'm coming in from Sandra Montessori, and I have no understanding of how to socialize with people. I don't remember having a single friend. Like at that point, from the Montessori, I don't remember being social to the point where I could actually have a memory of like, having friends or anything like that. So first grade happens, and I don't know if there's a way for me to put pictures in this podcast right now, but I was kind of like, a wimp. I was like a wimpy kid going into fucking high school. And like the way high school works in Pakistan, right? It's like from the first grade to the 10th grade. So there's like, if we sort of compare it to the American sort of schooling system, you have elementary in there, you have middle school in there, and you have high school in there, right? So first grade, kind of a wimpy kid and stuff, had no social skills or nothing like that. And there were all these like kids coming in whose social sort of lives were already like, well developed. They already had some sort of understanding on like, like academics, in terms of sports, in terms of like, other things. But to be honest, like when I went in, I don't have a memory of like, wanting to be interested in sports or academics. And like the Montessori experience did not give me, those skills at a really like significant sort of level. But anyways, human behavior is to adapt. So we adapted. Remember getting bullied a lot in the first, second grade, just because maybe I couldn't comprehend things, maybe like, I couldn't understand certain things the way they were supposed to be understood, or maybe I couldn't just socialize effectively and stuff. So that's why, like, if you look at my eyebrows, like there's this scar here, there's scar exactly right here. And this is not a coincidence. I mean, it could be a coincidence, but in the first grade I was like running away from these bullies, and these motherfuckers caught up to me and pushed me, and then I fell onto the rock or something like that, and then I like sort of I fractured the skin on my like eyebrow, and then I had to get that stitched up. And then literally in second grade happens, first grade, whatever, we manage, we adapt, we get through that shit. Second grade happens, and same shit happens. Motherfucker pushes me. I don't remember the name of that dude, who just pushed me and, led me to like have this car or whatever. Second grade happens again. Fucking scar, on this, exactly this eyebrow, this other eyebrow. Like first grade, this eyebrow, second grade, this eyebrow. Like I don't know why it had to be the eyebrows, but maybe because like this sort of section of my face is like kind of outward, so like when I fall, like maybe this hits the ground first or something. I don't know. Okay, anyways, have these two scars, as sort of memories from like first or second grades. First grade, second grade, like the way I'm really being transparent and candid about my journey and going into detail is just so I could unpack, certain like psychological patterns in my behaviors, or in my entire journey, where like I can understand like how maybe I was conditioned to certain things, or maybe I had um higher susceptibility to certain things. Anyways, right? We'll analyze that shit later. But first grade, second grade, I remember having a massive crush on my teachers, and then okay, I forgot to sort of make this clear, but my school, BBS Party High School, to this day, it was an only boys school. There were only dudes there, and obviously, in the teachers and stuff, we had like male teachers, female teachers, whatever. But for the actual like people who were enrolled, they were only allowed to be males, right? Coffee break, 1 second. Anyways, so only dudes there. Maybe that was one of the reasons that instead of having like a sort of crush on like a maybe like a another sort of classmate of mine, I had it on teachers and stuff because maybe they were the only ones there of the opposite sex. So that was sort of interesting now that I reflect upon it. Um, and I remember like writing like like these cliche ass love letters to the teacher or something like that. It was so cliche. It's so funny that now that I look upon it and everything. Anyway, second grade happens. Third grade, what happens is so it's first second grade, like even though I was weak in academics starting off, I gradually adapted, and alhamdulillah, like became better and at academics and everything. Academics is a really sort of you know keen thing that we're going to talk about later because it becomes really relevant. Anyways, third grade happens and my mom gets a job in Saudi Arabia, so we have to sort of move there. We moved there for a year, and this was particularly interesting too because Saudi Arabia was crazy to live in. We were in this small town called Zulfi in this province of Riyadh. Or was it Beretta? I don't know. I don't know what the province was, but we were in this small town called Zulfi. Over there was like a small Pakistani community, that sort of enabled us to have a sort of community. Because obviously, when you go to like different countries that is different from your own, shit, that did not even make sense. Different countries that are different from your own. Anyways, countries different than your own. Obviously, there's like a growing need for like a community, and that lingers until you actually have like some form of community around you. So you can speak the same language, eat the same foods, yada yada, yada, right? So we found a Pakistani community in Zulfi, and my mom's like working there. My dad like before obviously when he was in Pakistan, like before Saudi Arabia, before that, like before we moved there, he was employed as an anesthesiologist. Only if my parents had immigrated to the United States, but instead of Saudi at that time, my mom could have been working as a gynecologist. My dad could have been working as an anesthesiologist. Motherfucker would be rich, bro. But anyways, God had different plans. So my dad, couldn't work in Saudi Arabia. He did not have the permit. My mom only had the work permit, and so my dad just took care of the house and stuff. Became basically like just like the male equivalent of like a housewife, and he was doing our laundry, everything, taking care of all the house and everything. Anyways, I remember there were some people who lived in our house before. So it was an apartment thing, right? And we were renting it. And these motherfuckers left some Bangladeshi ghee. And my dad used to put that shit. And like they left that in their kitchen, right? And then my dad wanted to make use of that and now wanted that to like go to waste because like ghee was maybe, it was, nowhere to be found. And so he put that shit in the dal, which is lentils that we make in South Asian culture, or South Asian cuisine. And it would make it just taste so horrible. I hated dal, bro. While I was in fucking Saudi Arabia, when I got out of there and came back to Pakistan, I was having dal. I'm like, damn, bro. That's why like I still like dal chawal, even though people don't fuck with it. I still like dal chawal because shit, I had the Bangladeshi ghee infused dal chawal. No disrespect to Bangladeshis. Like I'm sure their ghee is applicable in their own cuisine, but the way my dad cooked it, So, anyways, coffee break. It's funny how the coffee makes these, like whenever you're drinking water, coffee, whatever, there's these gulping sounds. I hate them, bro. Even though you guys might be able to hear that shit, but I hate that shit, bro. Cannot I have this thing called misophonia, which is like people near me are like, chewing loudly, with food, with whatever, like with water, whatever, like if they're making loud noises, I hate that shit. Like anyways, coming back to Saudi, right? So growing up in Saudi Arabia, like constantly we were homesick. We wanted to go back to Pakistan, and like it was a small ass city, Zulfi. There was not much to do. There was now like, a lot of liveliness sort of in the culture there, or sort of like, in the lights or anything like that. I do remember we went to Riyadh on a trip to visit some relatives on my mom, and that was particularly interesting because like Riyadh was a big city and there was so much to do over there versus Zulfi. But to be honest, it was like a scary journey, right? Just because like when we first came there and stuff, I was unaware of Saudi Arabian sort of culture, and um and the laws over there, which like, were like a little bit extreme, like of like public executions and everything, and like it was just scary. So like I didn't fuck with that. I was never like a hardline sort of like, I'd never had like a hardline sort of mindset, and nor did my family, and nor did like most of the people living there and stuff like that. I think the most, okay, I'm not gonna get too political, but this is about my journey, right? Fuck it. So we're gonna talk about Saudi Arabian politics a different time, but anyways, that happens. I remember when I was like when I first came to Saudi, and this is so interesting, like reliving all the old memories. I'll never even like, stop to think about it until like I'm doing like a sort of podcast format and actually like, reflecting upon it, reminiscing upon it. When I was in Saudi, first got to Saudi, could have been like 3 4 days, and then there was this sort of dynamic where we would have like small mosques where we would pray like the daily five prayers, and then a bigger mosque that everyone would go to for the Jummah prayer, which is a big Friday prayer, right? So we wouldn't go to the big Friday prayer for just the regular sort of prayers. We would go to the closest ones to us, which was like, well, like a 5 minute walk, 10 minute walk, and most. And I remember so many times my slippers got stolen here. I don't know why motherfuckers were stealing like, just slippers and stuff. This still happens, but anyways, I remember there was this Saudi uncle. He was talking to my dad in Arabic. Now my dad did not understand shit, right? But he was like talking maybe like sign language, like, oh, like your son is like, oh, 7 now, he should know how to pray and stuff like that. Because I think I was trying to pray with my dad, but maybe I made like some mistakes in my prayer or something like that. And then he was just like, pointing to my dad, saying all that in Arabic, and then I think my dad understood. But I don't know, like when I like, oh yeah, so like after that, I think when I came back to Pakistan, then that's when I like truly like, rectified my sort of like prayer style and everything, because obviously you have to have it a certain way. There's like really like strict structure on how you pray and everything, like how you say like certain verses within the prayer, how you like sit and stand at the right specific points and everything. Anyways, right? So I remember, and then my dad, was like kind of taken aback because like he just got here, like his family just got here, and this uncle like lecturing about all this, and it was not like he was talking about like in like a normal polite tone, and like he was being aggressive about it, that uncle. But anyways, we leave from there, and then we're just living in our house and stuff. I remember like throughout the entire like year in Saudi, we were insanely homesick. Like we wanted to go back at all costs, and my dad just wanted my mom to like just work here, and like maybe we could settle here because Saudi had like better sort of lifestyle compared to Pakistan. My mom was getting paid more and stuff like that, so he just wanted us to like settle there and stuff. Anyways, that couldn't happen. I remember Pakistan International School of Beretta. I actually had a really cherished friend there. I actually forgot his name. I'm not sure, but I would roam around with him a lot. And there was this like small ass canteen, and it would be like really interesting to like get food there and stuff like that. One time my sister stole like thousand thousand real, was it? Yeah, 1,000 real, like a note of 1,000 real, and then just like tried to buy stuff with it. The canteen, they confiscated it because like it was not, she was, the snacks there was not that expensive, and they confiscated it. Like they were like, why are you like trying to like buy just like 2 real 3 real snacks with 1,000 real? So like that was funny. And it was an interesting journey just because just to get to that Pakistan International School, we would have to commute 3 hours. Wallah, he was 3 hours in the bus. There was a bus which would go from Zulfi all the way to Pakistan International School in Bureta. I was in a different state, so I was going to a different state for education. Because there was no like Pakistan International schools in Riyadh, and all the other schools that were near us were mostly not developed, or they were like all like the curriculum was all in Arabic, and we couldn't understand Arabic, so we had to go to like a school where obviously they had offered Urdu, they offered like English curriculum and stuff. So that was that. Anyways, it was an interesting journey just because on the 3 hours commute there, obviously, there was the whole van culture. And if you guys have ever been in different countries where they have like school buses and stuff, and even here, right, school buses sometimes have politics and shit, they have violence and stuff. That was a huge sort of like history of violence with our sort of school van or bus. And I remember these older kids would like bully me and my sisters just because our last name was like Zubairi, and they thought that we made fun of Hazrat Zubair, which is the companion of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, by sort of making our name Zubairi and stuff like that. And then they continued to make fun of me, make fun of us, and then they would hit us with like sticks or something, or like just like bully us physically and stuff until they found out that I could hack Facebook profiles and stuff. To be honest, it was not hacking. You could just There was this thing, right? Like everybody at that time, even though that they were minors, they were like could be like 9-10 years old. They were making Facebook accounts, right? Instagram was not there at this point. There was only Facebook and stuff. People used to play like Facebook games like Farmville. I remember this game called like something with pets, like Petville or something like that. Anyways, that was huge at that time. And so I remember people would have all their progress saved and everything, and then if you could report someone as a minor and like also give like their URL and everything, like Facebook would check that profile and like close it down, shut it down. So I sort of like use that mechanism and like sort of trick people into sort of thinking that okay, I hacked their account or whatever, and then they found out I was a hacker. And these motherfuckers were in like ninth grade and 10th grade. They were like, damn bro, this dude like studying in third grade is a hacker. Like, wow, okay. So that's when they start bullying me, like when they found out some like cool shit. Anyways, that was like the most potent memory that I have from Saudi. But what happened at the end of that Saudi year, was they were transferring my mom out to like a really remote location in Saudi. It was like Tanzania, some like really like complex Arabic word, like some small ass remote city. And fourth, fifth grade happens. Now this was a huge sort of time in my high school journey as well, just because on the high school side, right, I explained all the family shit. On the high school side, like I was sort of, now obviously when the kids were younger, right, teachers wouldn't hit them like as frequently or like as hard. But like in the fourth, fifth grade, we were getting hit like crazy, like just slaps out of nowhere. Oh, you didn't do your homework, slap, you didn't. And it was like bunch of petty shit too. Like motherfucker wrote in black ink instead of blue ink, and then like, get slaps for that and stuff like that. And now that I think about it, like I don't even know why the fuck we had this rule in our high school in Pakistan. Like, oh, you had to write the question with the black ink, or write the answer with the blue ink. Maybe we had this like deep coded understanding of like how color, like visual learning works. Like, okay, we're regarding the black sort of ink as a question, and then blue ink, we're basically getting conditioned to this sort of like color scheme or whatever. Anyways, it was sort of confusing. But maybe it has some wisdom behind it, now that maybe I could reflect upon it, do some research, whatever, something for later, right? But we would get hit for the pettiest shit, and then but my school had like a huge culture. There were like 4 houses which we were placed in. These were these different groups. One was like Raza Shah, Supariwala, Lancelot, and then Qaid Azam. These were different houses that would compete against each other for sports, for academics, for awards. So it was like a good structure in terms of that. But there was like a lot of politics involved with that as well. I remember we had the sort of like uniform, and then the house sort of badge would be on the pocket. And that was like, sort of like our identity at school. And obviously we had roll numbers and everything, which were sort of like our UIN number, or like our identification number at school. So that was interesting. Mine for some reason was always like either 20, 21, or 22. Like those were the 3 numbers that were like always my roll numbers or whatever. Anyways, um that was that. But a really important point to mention here as well, that after the fifth grade, right, fourth, fifth grade happens, develop like a bunch of social relationships within these grades as well. I remember Sadullah, my dear friend who I still have now. Bunch of other people, some motherfuckers that were mean as hell. I'm not gonna name them. I hacked their Facebook IDs and shit, and then I got a lot of shit for that. Not hacked, but the same process, the reporting as minor shit that I would have. Anyways, that happens. Fifth grade hits, and then sixth grade. If so, sixth grade, there were two routes in our high school. Either you could go into the Cambridge system, which was the O level system. This was the British schooling system, or you could go into the Aga Khan route, which was the sort of it was affiliated with like a local sort of academic board in Pakistan, which was well reputed by itself. Aga Khan board, and then I chose Aga Khan board, and I wanted to go the Aga Khan board route. I did not want to, because like if you would go into Cambridge in the sixth grade, you would have like double the classes and stuff, double the workload. And I want to fuck with that. And then I had no intention of going to England, or like just fucking with their own schooling system as well, even though like most of our schooling system and education are sort of like British focused, British centric in Pakistan. Anyways, um I remember the textbooks and everything. And one important point that I'm going to talk about textbooks and everything is like, let's talk about like subject versus subject, right? English education. And then I was really good, like I practically after sixth grade I really got good at like English language, English literature classes, which I got awards for many times and stuff like that. There were like prize distribution ceremonies which we would like go to and like get these awards. It was usually like books and stuff. But I got that in like sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth grade. And then that was interesting. And then basically what happened was mathematics, right? Mathematics I was really fucking weak in, just to begin with. This was kind of interesting just because when I came to the United States and when I started studying mathematics here was like basically um sort of taught with a complete different structure. And I would love math here. I fucking loved math here. The fucking geometry, calculus, whatever we did, even the fucking calculus. I fucking loved calculus in college and shit. It just has to be the right instructor, I think. Just because in ninth grade in Pakistan, when I was studying mathematics, the school's vice principal, Dinah, was teaching us. And, she taught with a great structure and great expertise, which would boil down things to like, great detail and stuff. And that was really like instrumental in like, developing like my mathematical learning. That's when I got better, like ninth grade. For 3 fucking years, there was a huge sort of culture of cheating. Like we would just like, it's called chapa. Chapa is the word in Urdu, right? Where you would like, just copy shit from other students and stuff like that. And I remember like one time I literally packed handouts for these big bunches of like papers sort of stapled together. And it would have like a lot of like educational sort of like learning materials on it and stuff like that. And then it was cold as shit. I was wearing like a big jacket and stuff like that. I literally like snuck in handouts and shit. And we used to have these desks where it would like be a flat top desk, and then it would have like a small like drawer underneath it. It would not be like a closed drawer, it would be an open drawer, right? So like I snuck in the handouts and shit, put the handouts in there. I was like copying out. This is like seventh grade or something like that. And then one of the invigilators, he caught me, and he was like, yo, if you do that shit again, I'm like taking you out of this classroom and stuff. And I was like, okay, I'm not gonna try to do that again. But I was the entire fucking high school, not entire fucking high school, there were like some things that obviously you could not cheat on, like English literature essays, English language, sort of like grammatical essays, comprehensions, all that. But in like a lot of like mathematical stuff, science was crazy. Chem was a fucking disaster. Physics was a fucking disaster. Biology was okay. Biology was, I had like good teachers and stuff like that. They actually knew. But like that sort of started coming like in the eighth grade. We had like physics, chemistry, and biology sort of like distributed into different subjects. Before that was just science. We were learning everything under the banner of science. So that was the sort of structure of like how our curriculum was based. And then we had Pakistan studies, which was social studies before the eighth grade. So after eighth grade, basically we had like more distribution, more concentrated subjects. Before eighth grade, it was just like general subjects. In social studies, we'd like learn like different things. We'd like sometimes, and even in Islamia, right? That is the one thing that I cherish about like studying within like a Parsi administration. They would give comparative sort of perspectives to different things, which actually developed our characters towards critical thinking, developed our minds towards critical thinking, where you compare, where now we compare all the graduates from that school, like mostly, I think, we compare different perspectives and have that sort of understanding in our head. So within even Islam, we had like, perspectives of comparative religion and everything, but not to undercount the actual like quality of like, our like even the education of our own religion that was taught within that sort of Islamic or Islamic studies sort of subject, just because it was phenomenal. It was phenomenal. We learned about the different wars that happened, different ghazwats, different prophet, different companions, different prophets, and everything, their journeys, and different ahadi, different like learning materials. We also had to like sort of analyze certain verses from the Quran and talk about them in our papers. Also like sort of quote specific references and stuff within those sort of passages and stuff like that within whatever our text was. So relaying this back to sort of like American education, that sort of solidified citing materials, citing reference materials and everything, right? And this was particularly interesting just because um when I was growing up, I did not have like, there was no like like or how we have in America, right? There's like a sort of Sunday school sort of structure where like kids go to maybe like a religious sort of institution on Sundays and they learn about religion there. One thing that I really liked about my school and I really appreciate about like growing up in Pakistan and stuff is that it was a subject in the school. It was a subject in the actual school where we were learning Islamic studies in like like sort of like a really intellectual basis and sort of like a really educational sort of basis, versus like if you would go to like a religious institution, maybe it's just taught from like a really like theoretical perspective, versus like maybe if it's embedded into the school's education and you're learning it every day and stuff like that, you can have like intellectual conversations about it. You can learn the intricacies and stuff. It's not like just basic education like Sunday school. That was pretty interesting and stuff. And okay, after that, social studies, right? Social studies was a great sort of topic. We would learn about different countries. We never learned about the world wars, I don't think so, within our 10 years of high school. World wars and Hitler and everything was something that I learned way later on when I came to America and stuff. I knew of the world wars, but there was like nothing that went into detail, just because Pakistan studies and the social studies in Pakistan was mostly focused on the nationalism, that exists in the country, and it's mostly focused on the nationalism and how the country came into being, how we fought the Indians, how we fought the this, and it was repeated in every single grade, and it went to like more detail, like okay, the Khilafat movement and the Indo-Pak War, the British colonization, everything, all these topics, we would like explore them in every single grade. As you would go higher and higher, there would be like more details, of course. But one particular thing to note here, though, and this is something that I disregard in Pakistani education, is like the level of nationalism that we're getting through the Pakistan study book is not, good. We're not like, being exposed to different perspectives, and different perspectives are completely shut out. There was the book that we would study from, it was a British publisher. Now it's not even allowed in the Pakistani schools just because it was, sort of, it's stigmatized, not stigmatized, but it actually like, sort of brought us like a different side of maybe Iqbal or maybe Sir Syed Ahmed Khan's own theology or something, not theology, but like his political views or something like that. Something that does not fit their narrative or their perspective. They do not want the kids to learning, but at the same time, they'll take action on that and not fucking like books of science from the fucking 90s and the 80s. So like, not to get too political, but that's the fucking state of the education, and the poor state, the poor quality of education is why, I think a lot of problem in the Pakistan's like they're deep rooted, like if you're conditioning to a child with all that shit, education from the 90s, education from the 80s, and it's not even, teaching them to think critically, I don't think that's of use. So that's what I was saying. So 10th grade immigration happens, right? And I was in the second semester, and now this was like a key sort of time where I could either complete my entire semester or wait, actually the approval actually came before August. It was July, so we could have immigrated before that, but my dad wanted me to complete the semester, so I completed the semester, went to the United States in January, and then we started looking for, and then now, okay, obviously coming to the United States was a huge deal for me. When we went for Umrah, when we were in Saudi Arabia, right? We were in Saudi Arabia for a year, as I mentioned in this podcast, earlier in this podcast. One of the biggest things that we know, and then not the biggest things that we know, but some people know this,
that when you go to pilgrimage to Makkah, right, and you look at the Kaaba, which is like the holy sort of monument we have in Makkah, when you have the first look at it and you make a prayer in your heart, that immediately gets accepted. When I went to the Makkah, and this was a time of like, a lot of like trouble that we were facing while living in Saudi. Like, we wanted to go back, we were homesick and everything. And obviously, even in Pakistan, lifestyle was not the best, right? So, um, there was this one country that sort of always, appealed to me. I was constantly infatuated with the culture, with the dynamics, with the people there, and that was obviously the United States. And when I first saw the Kaaba in Mecca, that was the first prayer I made. I said that, may God, may Allah, like, take me to the United States and help me settle there, right? Something along the lines of that. But I do remember that so specifically because I knew that was like, I was so intentional about it, and made that prayer, and alhamdulillah, here we are. But a lot of people tell me, bro, you wasted that, like special moment, and special prayer on this and stuff like that. But this is special for me. Like, I'm really thankful and blessed to be here. And it takes like a lot of it. I know so many people back home, they're struggling there in like really bad lifestyle, really bad living conditions and everything. And only way out for them sometimes is just to come to a Western country, and especially the United States. The United States is a safe haven. Is a just a it's a transformative world for many. That's what the American dream is. It's a transformation of your lifestyle. It's a transformation of your identity. Um, but when I first entered the United States, bro, it was magical. Like, it was like, we came to Chicago first of all, right? Um, I was so excited on the way, and then I remember like in the last days, the exams were about to happen, and then some of my friends couldn't even believe it. They were like, "Damn, bro, you really going to the US now?" Some friends that I was capping, they thought that I was capping. I was like making them a fool and stuff like that, and then I would never go and stuff like that. It was not possible, the way I was, the way I conducted myself and everything. And then I just left. I just told them, and like I had my last meetups, last farewell parties, whatever, and I left. And then when I was finally in Chicago and stuff, never visited a Western country before this. I just only visited Saudi, which was not Western, obviously. So I was just it was like a huge not culture shock. I mean, culture shock, I'll definitely get into that much later on, but it was crazy, bro. Like, these lights, these big buildings and stuff like that, I was amazed. I was like, damn, bro, this is a whole different world out here, and that's the same thing that I say when I go back to Pakistan now, like on trips and stuff. I'm like, that's a whole different world out here, but not so excited. Obviously, you can get excited if you go into like the better areas. Like, I think like Karachi's infrastructure is fucked up. Like, if you go to Karachi, you're gonna be like depressed looking at the states of life, and like, just like how infrastructure is and everything over there. But if you go to Lahore, you go to like the northern areas and stuff like that, you're gonna be amazed. Like, Pakistan has its own beautiful sides to it as well. But obviously, that depends on like which side you're going to. But America, bro, from the first day that I came here and until now, like I get amazed every sort of new sort of thing that I find. I get amazed at that. I went to this small town in Illinois, just to like I me and my friends discovered it, right? Like, my dear friend Ahmed Khan sort of like introduced me to it and stuff like that. It's called Galena. It's in Illinois and stuff like that. Like, even like small towns like that, you find so much like culture there and stuff like that. It's just developed. It's like infrastructures, like people are like like it really like boils down to like how people conduct themselves and how they sort of interact with each other and stuff like that. So we started living here. There was Willowbrook High School right by here, just like what, 10-minute 15-minute walk from here, and I was sort of enrolled there. And this is so interesting. This is such like it's a start of a transformative journey, because when I was first enrolled, I couldn't talk. I couldn't talk properly. Like, even though I was fucking getting awards in English literature, English language in Pakistan, like my writing skills were top, because when people usually come here, right, from different countries, especially Pakistan, stuff like that, they're enrolled in English as a second language classes and stuff like that. But I didn't have to do any of that, because alhamdulillah, my writing skills were well developed and everything. And then I could go like literally like I did my freshman year, which was regular English, no ESL, and then English 10 sophomore year I went to honors directly, and so because I fucking loved writing. I loved how to like find adjectives and stuff like that, being really good at grammar and stuff like that. That was one of my strengths growing up and stuff, you know. So, anyways, did not have to do the ESL option, but couldn't talk, bro. Motherfucker couldn't talk. And I remember I couldn't even converse with people just because they would ask me to repeat myself 2 times, at least 2 times, you know, minimum 2 times. Like, I was like, XYZ, right? Saying XYZ. And they're like, oh, could you go again? Could you like repeat yourself again? Like, that became such a fucking troublesome part that I would be like almost scared to talk to people, you know. And then it was that culture shock as well. And then, like, obviously, like, say you meet another person, right? And then obviously we have the culture that, okay, introduce themselves, right? Like, hey, this is XYZ, this is my friend from here, or this is Salman, he just came from Pakistan, whatever, whatever, you know. And then introduce them, and then have like a sort of graduated exposure thing where, okay, you're building relationships with the students in class or something like that. No, motherfucker was isolated, bro. I remember being isolated in all of my classes. Sometimes all in the entire class, I was the only brown person, you know. And then it's just like people had their own friends from kindergarten, from elementary school, from middle school over here. And then they like, when people teacher would say like get into groups and stuff, they would just get into their own groups, and I wouldn't have a group to like go off. And so I would have to like, you know, do my own projects and stuff like that. Sometimes I would be working with like a random group, they would be talking their own shit, you know. I did not have someone to converse and stuff like that. So um a lot of times, you know, would sit alone at lunch and everything, and it was just crazy. um and I remember in like a sort of short time, there was this one girl that, you know, like kind of like, you know, she was kind to me or something like that, you know. Allowed me to sit at her, not allowed, but she just invited me to like sit at her lunch table or something like that. And it was like the first um sort of, what's it called, the approach to kindness or something like that, because nobody has had shown like kindness or interest in me, or like, you know, just been interested, or like, okay, let me talk to this dude, right? And uh I'm not gonna mention her. I made the fucking mistake of mentioning her, and I wrote about her and stuff like that. It was a whole fucking journey, and I did that on my spam account, and that got memed by multiple people. So let's not get into the names, but that was like really really special to me and stuff. And then obviously I was continuing my academics. I found so easy, you know. I was like, fuck, this is chem, bro, this is like second grade chem, I could do that shit easy, you know. And then English, you know, English was easy too. Mathematics was amazing, because this was one of the biggest like things. It was not a culture shock. It was like, yo, like I was studying mathematics under like such a bad sort of educational standard in Pakistan. And now like this structure is amazing that they have here with like, you know, geometry, algebra 2, fucking pre-calc and everything like that, right? So like it was like taught from like a really basic level, and they gradually built up. There were resources, there were like, you know, word time, you could like, you know, go to like different teachers, different tutors, fuck nah, you know, like fucking resources and shit, a lot of things. So you know, that really helped me in math and stuff. There were language classes that I had to take, and obviously like I slowly got to that. Loved you know, my Spanish class, Mrs. Klimek was amazing. And so like like just from like the start of my journey in high school in the United States, it was really hard like adapting, especially to the social standards and everything. And I tried to immerse myself as much as possible, but sometimes like there would be like certain gaps and stuff where I couldn't like, you know, function in those areas. Really developed like social anxiety too, so I did not want to like, you know, just approach anyone or anything like that. And that was like a problem. So like we're gonna talk about that problem much later on and how I get rid of it and everything. But anyways, um couldn't talk to Elizabeth. Fuck, I said her name. I'm gonna probably cut that out, but couldn't talk to the person who invited me at lunch and stuff like that. I remember there was this one girl in my science class. Her name was I forgot her name, bro. We're just gonna say her name was fuck. What is a cliche name? I don't know. Yeah, her name was Janae, right? Her name was Janae. Met her in science class, right? And she comes up to my lunch table one day, and she's like, "Yo," and she comes. She's seen me in bio class before, and then she comes sits on my table, and then she's trying to talk to me and stuff like that. I'm just head down looking at my lunch, because I have fucking social anxiety and I don't know what to say to her and shit. And she's trying to talk to me, and did you do the bio homework and stuff like that? I'm not responding properly, right? So like her friend who was standing by her gets frustrated and says, he ugly, man, leave him. He ugly. So like I'm like, shit, man. I'm getting dissed on at my face, bro. Shit, couldn't do anything about it though. Fuck, I was just sitting there, by myself. And then she just leaves. And then I had her in like future classes and shit too. But obviously I did not contact her, approach her, or whatever. Sophomore year happens, and the fucking problem was I did not have all my records from Pakistan, my educational records, and so they pushed me back. Even though like, I got all my educational records after a certain time, they still pushed me back, saying like I did not have. I was like younger, so like I was gonna be placed in like ninth grade. Like fuck, man, I have the education records, even though I'm younger. Put me forward, So like when I later on went to like Glenbard East, which was the other high school in Lombard, like this was a whole part of a different journey. When I went there, they took in all my credits and I was able to graduate high school early, but that happens much later on. So stay tuned, right? Sophomore year, right? Happens, and then I sort of my mom would always tell me, yo, they're these Desi kids, the South Asian kids, right? Like they're similar to you. Like go out and play with them. They're playing soccer and stuff like that. Did not want to ever like approach them or anything like that. Was afraid of that, right? So did not do that. But I remember like people started coming up to me a little, in like high school, and like tried talking to me and stuff like that. So like slowly I was coming out of my shell. And then in my community in Villa Park in Illinois, there's like a lot of South Asian people, right? South Asian Muslim people, so like a lot of like common identities. One day, so like these two motherfuckers stopped me. They just invite me to their car. We like, they're just talking South Asian people. I'm not gonna name them who are there, but I'm friends with only one of them now. But they stopped me. We're talking about bullshit and we talk about girls and stuff like that. Just raw normal shit that a person like just talks about. So we're talking about all that shit. We like, and like this is like social exposure to me after like a long time, so like I'm appreciating that. And I talk with them, and then they invite me to like a much larger friend group, which is full of like South Asians, most different Muslims and stuff like that. And I appreciate that, like, and then I finally like get out of my shell and like start exploring my sort of social circles again. And I would be sitting with them at the library, and then I met like one of my best friends too through another like mutual friend. And it was a whole like good journey after that, just because I had like so much um social sort of interaction. Also I remember during that time, shit, it slipped out of my mind, bro. Fuck. Yeah, I remember my sisters had no fucking problem adapting to their, classmates or anything like that in middle school. Maybe because they went to like they did not go to like an all boys high school. Like you have to also remember that I was coming from an all boys high school dynamic now into like a mixed school where I was not exposed to these dynamics before, so it was a different game for me. So it was hard time adapting. And maybe people are just kinder in middle school. They're kids, they have an easier time like getting along with each other. I did not in high school. All the motherfuckers isolated me. If you're watching, these motherfuckers isolated me, bro. I'm not lying. Even though I did not approach them myself or anything like that, but like heavy sense of isolation, right? I did not fuck with that. And then that obviously diminished after I found my social circle, after I found my people, within my own community and everything. And we were going to high school together. Sophomore year ends, right? Now, not sophomore year did not end, right? So like latter half of the sophomore year, there's some shit in Pakistan that happens, and my family has to go back to Pakistan, right? And then they have to take my sisters too, and then they have to take me too. Technically have to take me too back to Pakistan. And like they're like planning on coming on later time. And I'm not okay with that because I was so infatuated with this country. I was so attached. I was like so like I was growing. I was flourishing. I was thriving in the educational systems here. I had met these people who were trying to get into Ivy Leagues and stuff like that. I was on the same grind. I want to get into Ivy Leagues. I want to like get the best grades and stuff like that. I'm slowly building up towards that. Because that was like that sort of became my passion. And I did not want to sort of go back and face the same bullshit again, same bad educational systems and everything, and same sort of fucking family political drama, whatever the fuck it was. I did not want to like immerse myself into that again. So, I was talking to one of my best friends about it, and next day what happens is like he talked it over with his family, and he's like, yo, like, you don't have to go, like you could just come live with us. And I was like, damn, that's just even possible. And I was like so surprised and everything, and it was like a huge shock to me. And I was so thankful and like everything, and I didn't even believe it at first, but I talked over with my parents and everything, and they said you could, if like um it's fine by them and everything. So our parents met, everybody met, they were fine with it. My parents had to leave in a hurry and stuff. There was some property shit that was going on. It's always that property shit that makes them go back, bro. Um, Need for materialism, need for more power, need for money, need for wealth. We're gonna talk about that in a much later podcast. Investigate those topics. Anyways, they go back. I started living with my best friend. I'm gonna not name any names here, but it was an interesting journey. And I remember I first started work at Safariland, which is a local amusement park here. And my friend used to also work there and stuff, so we would go to work together and stuff like that. And during this time, I had like almost no finances. I had some finances from this sort of like work that I had as like data entry specialist. I was like almost a project manager there. It was like a telepsychiatry sort of startup and stuff. And I was like doing like compiling data then, and I put all my friend group on, bro. I'm not even lying. Like I got this, like my dad's employer had this sort of startup, and then he sort of wanted like people to work for him and stuff like that. My dad put me on, be like, yo, like you can work for him and stuff like that. And then he needed like more employees to like sort of, it was like sort of contract work. You could just work and you just get paid like bi-weekly, weekly, whatever. It was like compiling different states data, and from like different, like for about like different psychiatrists and stuff, because he wanted to like bring them upon this like sort of virtual model, this virtual like sort of tele psychiatry consulting. But anyways, I was compiling all the data, checking that for validation, sending it over to like the actual owner of the company, and sort of constantly communicating with people. And then so there were like no employees except me and then the people that I put on. So like basically, these were just people in my high school, in my community and stuff like that. I'm like, yo, this job is paying like $8 an hour or $10 an hour. You could just like come work on this, and like you just have to compile different states. It's not like hard work. It's just online work. You could do it from anywhere. They were decent with that, because it's like meant some extra cash and stuff like that. So I remember at least 10 to 12 people, and they were like, working on different states and stuff like that. I was like, okay, you're doing Texas, you're doing like Richmond, all that. So it was definitely interesting. After that ended after a while, because the psychiatrist compiled the data and he wanted to launch his startup. And anyway, so that job sort of ended, and obviously like I spent some of it on like new shit for myself, just because I would never get like shit from family, like no money from family, like no like money for devices, or like just personal stuff for myself. Like I've always had to do shit on my own, and that's something that's like a sort of trend you guys are gonna see in like later on in my sort of the topics that I sort of talk about in like much later parts of this podcast. Okay, so anyways, get my first phone with all that money, and like get other stuff. And what happens is like, okay, so capitals almost started to run out when I moved in with my friend. So I was working as a pilot, earning some bank there. It's not like a lot, but it was like what, like 12 per hour? No, not even that. Like probably like 9 something per hour we were earning at that time, working at the local amusement park. So this is where this interesting shit happens, right? um it was like a lot of like uh basically like people of Hispanic descent working there and stuff. And like the way I had my haircut and everything at that time, I looked Hispanic as well. Like a lot of people would ask me to start talking to me in Spanish. I'll be like, oh, are you like are of Hispanic descent or something like that? Like, I would always tell them no, like like I don't know where you got that from, but they're like, oh, you look the part. So what happened was like there were like 2 3 people. There was this one person first when I came there, and then she was attracted to me and stuff like that. And then there was another dude who was interested in her and stuff like that. And she would be obviously be like, unnecessarily kind to me and stuff like that, helping me out with my duties, when I was first coming in. She was like training me and stuff like that too. One time this dude pulls me, you know towards the back, and he's like, yo, like, I'm interested in her, don't fuck with her, like she's mine and shit like that, just being like, jealous in like sort of immature way and stuff like that. Like, motherfucker, I'm not even making no attempts, so. And at that time, my social anxiety was still going on, so like obviously I was appreciating the kindness. I was able to hold conversations, I was rapidly progressing, but it was not like, oh yeah, I just want to jump in, at all costs here. So anyways, I was not doing a lot, and um that happens. I'm still living with my friend and everything. His family was really kind to me. Like, I was really well fed and everything. They never charged me anything, for anything, like nothing for rent, nothing for food or anything like that. All this was well fed, and that is something, like, that I'm always thankful to his family for. Um, but it was a really, like, well display of kindness and everything. And like, one of the days his dad was talking to me, and he said that he faced a sort of similar situation in his life, and that's why he wanted to help me out and everything. And I really appreciated it, right? So anyways, 2 months fly by, third month flies by, and now they have to go on like a sort of vacation on like their spring break, and I have nowhere to live with, right? So like, I cannot live alone in the house for like a week. At least they thought it was not like, not proper, like, not like, they weren't comfortable with it, right? Obviously. So um I had to find another place, and then, I mean, they would ask me questions like, oh my, like, where are you gonna, like, are your family coming back, like, where are you gonna go from here and stuff like that. Obviously, like, wild questions that anybody would ask, like, because my dad told them that, like, he was gonna come back in like 3-4 months, 5-6 months, whatever, and like, he was gonna, like, I would be like living with them again and stuff like that. But the property issues were still going on. My dad couldn't leave the country, right? um but there was pressure growing from this side as well, because obviously it was like only like a 2-bedroom apartment, and I used to be like sleeping on the couches, that they had, and like, I had to just adapt there and stuff like that. But that obviously like disrupted their privacy and everything too. So um it was like, okay, like, is your family coming back or something like that? And I would ask my dad, like, yo, like, when are you coming back and everything? He tried to like, he was like, I could ask my other friends who you could live with or something like that. He tried doing that. Nobody was comfortable with that, because obviously I was not providing any gratification to them. Neither I was here, but obviously they were kind enough to like let me stay and stuff. And then this was a really hard time for me, just because I was like, okay, maybe if my dad doesn't come back, maybe if they kick me out and stuff like that, where am I gonna go? After like, I was constantly looking up homeless shelters at this time. I was just like, what, like, barely 15 at that time, 15, 16 at that time. And I was looking up homeless shelters and stuff. I'm like, yo, I don't know where to go and stuff like that. I was hitting up local shelters in my neighborhood in Chicago and stuff like that. I was like, what's gonna become of my education? I have all these high goals and stuff like that. Had no resources, and it was like, at such a young age, I feel like I was subjected to like a lot of pressure at that time, just because I, like, for the first time, like, I mean, not for the first time, but like, for like a significant time, I had like no security. I did not know where I was going, and I did not want to go to Pakistan. So what happens is they have to go away for spring break, and I cannot be alone. So I have to ask my my mom's sister, who I couldn't live with. Like, I have not been able to live with them. Like, they're not okay with me living with them during this whole time, right? Like, when I'm being left alone with by my parents or whatever. So I I have no choice but to, like, live with them for the spring break, and maybe I can go back after or whatever, I don't know. So I start I come back there, to their house, and they're kind of now okay with me being there and stuff like that. And then my aunt would be like constantly coming to me every day, being like, yo, what's gonna become of you? Your parents are not here, what are you gonna do and stuff like that? You should just go back, just constantly pressuring me. And then 6-7 day hits, is like, okay, so my mom knew of all these things and that were happening and stuff, and she had her own problems with, like, just like me being in such an insecure place and everything, and like, she couldn't deal with that. So like, she would just constantly tell my dad, just convince me to like come back or something like that. I don't know, it was a bunch of shit going on at that time. And so what happens is, 6-7 day hits, and then my uncle, that I previously used to always like also like live with him in Pakistan, in the John film system before, that I talked about earlier in this podcast. he sort of said that you can come back to Pakistan. I'm gonna pay for the flight ticket, and then I know you want to be independent. You're individualistic and everything. You want to like make your own money and everything. You can do that. I'm gonna give you a job at my company as well. You can work for me and stuff like that. Make your own bank, and like when later on your family, is all stable and it's like they can come back. They have because there was like property issues going on. My mom's job was going on. She just couldn't leave that off the bat. Um when all those issues are resolved, you can come back or whatever. So I'm like, okay, I don't have any other choice. I've already like burdened my hosts enough, even my aunt and even my best friend's family and everything. So like I just do not have a choice. I have to go back. I go back, and then I put these stories on my Snapchat that I have no other choice, and people are like giving me all kinds of assurance that can't you like live more with your friend or like something like this or that. And I had no choice. I just had to go back, bro. Like there was no other thing I could do. So basically, on the way back to Pakistan, the flight back, I'm really depressed, and I'm like, damn, bro, all my dreams are gone. These Ivy League dreams are gone. Everything is gone. My American dream is dead. I literally put a story on my Snapchat. American dream is dead, bro. And it was really bad. It was a really bad time for me. But I was kind of relieved too that I was like, I did not have to be homeless no more. Like actually had a home now and stuff like that. And I had like literally people. I had like my friends. Some of the motherfuckers like made fun of me. Like, oh, you homeless and stuff. Or you could just come live in my yard or come live in my den or something like that. Like motherfucker, chill the fuck out, right? So anyways, I go back to Pakistan. My uncle delivers whatever he promised. He gave me a job. I was living in my old house, and again, I was just so depressed to see all this fucking all these problems around me, all this drama around me, all the pollution around me and everything. And I was like, nah, bro, like this is not it. I don't care if my family's living here, stuff like that. I have to do something about it. And like every single day I would be researching like crazy. There were like these 2-3 months that went by, and then I was enrolled again in the schooling system over there. And like they did not just take me back. They were like, okay, you're gonna have to give the exams, and if you get accepted in again, then we're gonna take you back, right? So I was in the process of sort of giving those exams and everything, and that was depressing too, because I was going through the same fucked up educational system, like the same bullshit ass maths, and it was such a stressful thing. I did not have one to study that way. I was like, fuck this shit, and then I did a sort of exams and stuff like that. And these motherfuckers, they gave me such low marks in English and stuff like that, such low marks in mathematics. And I'm like, bro, I had like twice the marks in the system, in the education system in the US, like what the fuck am I doing here? Like I'm not even being rewarded for my hard work and shit. So I did not want to study there at all. Constantly, I was like tired, and I was researching every day. I'm like, bro, I need to get out of here some way or the other. I had just enough money, to like basically get a flight ticket to the United States back. Right, I had still my bank account and everything. And what happens is, there was this one person named Pilar, right? And she reached out to me. Like I was posting a lot on like Facebook, Reddit, everywhere, that if there's some policy, because I was still a minor at that time. That was the biggest problem, that I'm not even 18. If I go, do I still have rights? Am I going to be in the foster care system or something like that? And that was something that my mother was concerned about too, that if you go back, you're going to be like, sort of taken by the foster care system. You're going to be living with these adoptive parents or whatever. Like, she did not want me to go through all that. And, I was constantly researching on minors' rights, if I could get like emancipation or something like that. Did not know what to do until like Pilar, like one of these people that I met, she was a great resource. She said that she went through similar shit herself, but like she enrolled herself in a high school. She completed her graduation and everything, and I could still like come back and do all of that and not be like troubled by DCFS or be troubled by any governmental agency, and still have rights. And then once I turn 18, then it's not even like a problem for anything like that. So I listened to her. She gave me a lot of like psychological comfort as well. Be like, okay, you're gonna be able to do it. You're gonna be comfortable and stuff like that. So what I did now was like, okay, who's gonna take me in, right? Where am I gonna live? Like, okay, I can pay like monthly rent and stuff like that. I can make my own money once I get there and stuff like that. I can work, right? But how am I gonna get there? And where am I gonna live? So I started hitting up like roommates, different like these groups on Facebook where you could find roommates and where you could like find people to live with and stuff like that. Some of the people were completely out of my budget, right? But then I found like a group of people. They were like UIC grad school people. They were living together and stuff, and the rent for that was like 600 a month. I was like, okay, I can work that. Maybe like be able to come up with that, and I'll be able to like go there. And so I was like, okay, I found my way. Fuck what everybody thinks. Fuck what, like, literally people do whatever they want to say to me. I'm just going to go, right? Because I wanted to go. I touted, like, sort of like mentioned this idea to a couple of my relatives, family members, uncles, whatever. They were like, bro, you're not going to be able to make it. You're just a stupid ass idea. Don't do it, right? I remember going on like booked my flight. I booked my flight, told my dad, he wasn't talking to me at that time because he was such shock to him. My mom, I told her and stuff like that. She took some time to like sort of process it as well, because obviously I was still a minor taking this huge step. Whose parents was going to just allow them to do that step, just out of nowhere. So I had everything booked. I told them that I had roommates that I could live with and everything, and I was gonna take the step no matter what. I was just headstrong, and that's one of the things that you have to be in life. You have to be headstrong in whatever fucking decision you're taking. Take that decision. You're on your own. You just have to trust yourself and God, and that's it. That's all you need, bro. You don't need the validation of your parents, of your family members, of your uncles, that bitch who doesn't take off you. Fuck everybody, bro. That's what it's about. Anyways, that was a lot, but still, shit. I booked my flight. I had the agreement with the roommates that I was gonna come live with them. Pay them 600 a month, and I was gonna go to the school in the city somewhere. So like the place where these apartments were located, these were the SCIO apartments near UIC West Campus in Chicago, and it's always like so fun walking by those apartments now and like sort of reminiscing those times, because those times were like really troublesome. Anyways, before coming to the United States again, I went on this trip towards the northern areas and towards like Punjab, where my other relatives reside and everything, and they knew of this shit that was gonna happen, and I was gonna go back on my own and stuff like that. I was just a kid at that time, obviously, and they told me, bro, you're not gonna be able to survive. You're gonna waste your money and everything. You're gonna just come back, and then you're not gonna have success in this. Just like don't go, don't go. Everybody was saying don't go. I was like, fuck you, man. I'm still gonna go. I'm gonna find a way out, I don't care. So literally, I could have listened to them and not went, and I could have been in a completely different place, but I still like, trusted myself, trusted God, and took the leap of faith. So basically mid-semester hits. October is when I sort of like book my tickets again for the United States. And I'm here back again in Chicago, Uber all the way to these SCIO apartments, meet these roommates, and then I had to figure out now how to like live by myself. Because before at my best friend's house, I was still getting food and everything, but here now to like prepare food, I had to like learn to cook food. I had to like I remember the first day I like cooked my own eggs. I bought my frying pan, everything that I still have from then, and then I would cook tea and everything. There was the 7-Eleven right downstairs, and I became like a huge fan of pumpkin spice latte. It was like fall time at that time, and I was drinking that, and I was like getting like bagels and shit, croissants, like a few desserts. I was like just living on like a few items and like a little bit of food. I did not know how to like cook a lot and stuff like that. Anyways, tried researching up schools, because obviously within this whole thing, I was prioritizing my education. That was the biggest reason that I came back. I was like, I had to get my Ivy League, I have to get my Ivy League shit in. I have to go to college here again in the United States. I have to like really get my education. And I was researching up schools, but then there was this whole problem with CPS schools, and everything was far away. I would have to take the CTA and everything. Did not have the stability that I would have in the suburbs and everything. So I talked to my friend that I used to live with before. I'm like, okay, well, I want to come back to the suburbs. The schools over there are much more stable, safer, and I could have like a better education there and not worry about as much as rent, because 600 a month was still at that time like was a lot more for me. Even if I was saying like $50, if I was saving $100, that would still meant the world to me. So I told them to like look into the mosques advertisements. People like sometimes put like a room for rent or something like that. Look into that and tell me like if I can come live out there in the suburbs if someone has a room or something. So everybody was searching, many of my friends, and then they told me of this room that they had in Lombard, and where I could come and live on my own. It was like a room in the basement, and so I was like, okay. I talked to the landlord and everything. I was like, okay, I'm gonna just come there. Got all my stuff together, my suitcase and everything, and then my best friend, like, drove me there to that place. So came there, and then the owner of this house, they had like other tenants living on the actually living in the actual house, but the basement was for rent, like, and I mean, the upper place was rent, like the actual house was for rent as well, but obviously that did not have any space, so like I obviously had to occupy the basement. There was two rooms in the basement, and I had this like 30-year-old 40-year-old roommate. It was 40-year-old roommate. He was still trying to do PA after failing so many times, and this motherfucker troubled the fuck out of me. He was like, it was a really difficult time. This motherfucker was like, he was cruel. He was like, mean as hell, and he would like, just trouble me about simple things. Um, and then this was a difficult situation to live in, just because there was some laundry sort of things right in the house, but whenever I would use them, like, the tenants would get like, super sort of mad that I was using their electricity and everything. And even though like they weren't paying the bills or something like that, the actual owner was. So like, I don't know what the fuck was the problem was there. But I started living there, and like, start like enrolled myself in high school. So Glen Burdy's high school was almost like a mile away from me. It was exactly a mile away. That's why I had to walk a mile every day. I couldn't get the bus because it was exactly a mile. So enroll myself, and then the assistant principal of the school tells me that even though I'm enrolling myself, and he heard about my journey and everything, and he thought that I was really courageous and everything, but he said that I still have to sort of like, he still has to like report me to the DCFS, just because it's his obligation and everything. And even though they might not do anything with it, so he sort of um tells the DCFS and everything, and but nothing ever happened. Nothing ever happened. They didn't contact me or anything like that. So now I'm like, basically working and living on my own and stuff like that. And I remember I would do all my groceries from Dollar Tree. There were these like $1 small, like, fettuccine Alfredo like sort of things, and then small like mac and cheese sort of boxes, like just like literally $1 boxes that you could warm up and eat. And those were like mostly what I lived off on. And I learned to like cook like meat and stuff in the oven, like my landlord sort of showed me. I would cook my eggs and everything. I one time like I tried biryani or other rice dishes too that were like not really well. It was not like the best thing that I cooked, but fuck it, it was whatever. It was good at that time, right? So while all this was happening, I was hyper focused on my education. I was like, bro, I need to get to Ivy Leagues. I applied to all the Ivy Leagues, Common App and everything. Applied to Harvard, Stanford, Princeton, Northwestern. Applied to Loyola. Not Loyola was not Ivy League, but I applied to like local colleges as well, because obviously, I had to keep my backups in Loyola, DePaul, UIC, UIUC, and started the application process. So like when I transferred my credits in from Pakistan to this school, Glenbard East, they took all my credits, and everything transferred over. So actually, like, I was on the path of graduating early. Even though my advisor was like, nah, bro, you just take a gap year with your kind of situation. I would recommend you to like, take another year or like whatever. He just kept saying all these things, but I was like, nah, bro, I'm just gonna try to like, get out as soon as possible. I want to go to college, because even while studying at high school, I was like, bro, what are these like, I did not just like the structure of high school, and I just really wanted to go to college, as soon as possible. Now that I reflect upon it, if I had some sort of stability at that time, if I was not living on my own at that time, I would have liked to take like woods classes or automotive classes, just like immersing myself in different crafts, so I could learn about these things. These things are really important. Um, but I remember like AP Bio. I remember like I took AP Bio in my last year at Glenbard East. I took AP Lang. My AP Lang professor was amazing. He recently died of cancer though, so like that was sad. But AP Bio, Miss Sable, what other AP classes? AP Gov was fucking amazing, bro. One of the best classes I ever taken, because fucking political system, the laws, the constitutions, I love that shit, bro. And then Mr. Grant was an amazing teacher. That's why I got a 5 on the AP Gov test, because I fucking loved it so much. I was citing shit like crazy. I was like, yes, let's take this amendment, let's take that court case and everything. That's what solidified my understanding of the American constitutional systems and everything. And that's still something I'm really passionate about. And it's gonna make sense how my certain decisions are placed together. As soon like as this podcast sort of progresses. But Anyways, took those classes. It was really enjoyable process. Applied to all the IVs, mostly the IVs and stuff, and local colleges as well. So like I had an interview with Harvard, I had an interview with Princeton, and I had an interview with Northwestern. These were the three, like, sort of Ivy sort of level schools that I had interviews with, and really well interviews and stuff like that. But ended up not getting into any of those, and ended up getting into ended up having a full ride to like UIC, Loyola, DePaul, and there's one college in was USC, University of Southern California. But DePaul and Loyola, these were like private colleges, did not give like full rides. There were like some scholarships, loans with loans and everything. It would be full rides, but I did not want to take loans. Just off the bat, just because I want to get into pre med at that time, and I knew I had to take like schools loans for like med school later on. Anyways, that happens, and I had full rights, without any loans to USC and UIC. Now, I did not want to go to California because of the high property cost and like how I would live there and everything. Even though I could take a leap of faith and also do that, but then now after a long time, there was some stability in my life, so I wanted to just cherish that and be like, okay, I'm gonna just go to UIC, in the city. It's still a beautiful college, still like great sort of subjects that I could learn there. A lot of great expertise I could have there, which I would doubt now, but. Still made that decision. Alhamdulillah, it was still great. So UIC, the decision to UIC, the road to UIC happened. Now, my time here at this place in Lombard was up. So what happened was one of my other friends, who was one of my first friends at Willowbrook, the first high school that I went to in the United States, he said that, yo, I could just come live out with his family for 2-3 months before I go to UIC, just because he wanted me to be like a little bit stable just before I went to UIC. He talked out with his family. His family was chill with it. They didn't charge me no rent or anything like that either. It was just like, alhamdulillah, because of these great people, because these like sometimes God just places blessings in your life, places like people, really kind people in your life that you do not even know where they came from, where these things come from, but God really takes care of you. If you have the trust in him, if you really trying to progress yourself and do not mean harm to nobody, God really helps you out. So like that was something that I definitely saw in my journey. And within even within when I was even living by myself, I remember my friends would sometimes come and help me out with iftars, which were food in Ramadan and stuff like that. Just like grocery shopping, even though like I had my own money for groceries and everything. Times were not that bad, alhamdulillah. During this entire journey of living on my own, it was never that times got so bad that I was down to a penny or down to like the last dollar or something like that. Like God always took care of my financial needs and everything. But obviously, homemade food would always be appreciated. Sometimes friends bought me groceries and everything. Like I can never forget those things. Obviously, that meant really meant a lot to me. And especially in those sort of troubling times. But anyway, so like I go to this friend's house, live there for 2 months, and it's quite the journey. He was quite different from my other friends, and I was exposed to like a lot of like different, really like drastically different friend groups and everything. And obviously we're going to talk about these Lombard friend groups and like a later podcast, but anyways, this happens, and now those 2 months went away. Now is the time for UIC. So UIC, I found roommates. There were like two Pakistani guys and three or four Yemeni guys. We had basically like a townhouse in Pilsen, which was nearby Chicago. It was like Halsted and 16th Street. So if you have UIC, there's you go sort of north on Halsted. If you go straight down Halsted, I don't know if it's north, please feel free to correct me, but if you go straight down on Halsted, there's Halsted. There's Halsted in Maxwell, there's a Halsted in 14th Place, there's Halsted in 16th Street. So we lived on the 16th Street. It was a townhouse. There were 6 people, and there were 3 bedrooms, so we were splitting every bedroom in half, and there were like 2 people every room. So it was not that bad, but our room, me and my roommate, that was the smallest room. So we had to just make do with space. I remember the first day I went there, I had no mattress or anything like that, and I had to sleep on the floor. It was like the worst sleep of my life. And I remember like just getting a mattress for $100 on Amazon, and even $100, bro, that meant like a lot at that time, because I was, obviously living on my own. I was had taking no, there was literally no help from my family members from Pakistan, nothing, $0. I was constantly like, I had to like do shit on my own, right? So got that mattress and stuff, and that was chill. Did not have any other furniture and stuff. And that was the sort of process. I was pre-med, I was focused on medicine at that time, going straight into college. And the worst shit I did was like, I took like a really like high level evolution course just coming into college, just my first semester, and I shouldn't have done that. Even though other people who were freshmen still did it, but like I was coming off of it like no sort of like real like knowledge and like greater background within that topic, and I got my first C in that class, and that was a big L to me, just because, bro, like it was a C. Like entire high school I had a fucking all like A's. Literally entire high school had A grades, bro. Like I had like a 4.4 GP on a 5.0 scale. Or on like a 4.0 scale, I had like a 4.4 just because of the AP classes and everything. Nothing to brag about, but like, it was like good A's for me. But now it was college, it was real shit. You were graded for the correct answer, not just for your performance and your effort, and then I got to see, I was so depressed about it. And I remember like crying through the first chemistry class and like other shit that I couldn't figure out and everything. I was like, nah, bro, this just not for me, like, and then not just because of that, like I could have like went through all that because I loved biology, I still like wanted to do medicine and everything, but then I realized, and then I figured out the capitalist healthcare system, which takes advantage of poor clients and everything, and that completely went against what I want to pursue medicine for, and obviously people could have different sides on this argument and everything, but that sort of like changed the side for medicine for me. And so basically, I want to either go into CS, computer science, or want to go into like a sort of business field, and that's when I found IDS, which was information design sciences, both business analytics and management information systems. I was like, bro, I love this shit. I love Excel. I love statistics. I love how data is visualized and everything, and I love project management and everything. So it was a really great sort of appeal to me, and I went with it. And so at this time, I also signed up for like a social anxiety research study. So there was these research studies in psychology, from the psychology department in UIC, and they had like openings and stuff, and then I called them and told them about my situation and everything, and then that sat right for their research needs and everything. So I started doing research with them, and then there were like two paths to the research. One was like cognitive behavioral therapy, and one was supportive therapy. Supportive therapy is basically like you go to the psychologist and you just talk. You just basically they ask you what's on your mind, and you just talk. And sometimes that talk can go as deep into like basically delving into your traumas, delving into like your psychological factors going in as a child, and that gives you a lot of like awareness about yourself as well. And then with that awareness, you can educate yourself, like, okay, these are the different things that are happening to me or happened to me, and this is because of this, and then cause effect and all that helps to understand a lot about yourself. And so coming back to the research study part, right? I took the psychology class, and I was able to draw like a lot of parallels between those psychological factors, that might have contributed to my own sort of social anxiety, my own sort of like, how I went about certain things in my life. And that was really interesting. And I could like sort of conquer my own anxiety by educating myself, being more aware of it. And that's the whole, I don't know if this is the whole point of supportive therapy, but it definitely helped. Anyways, the 6 month sort of part of supportive therapy goes, and then during this I was doing a bunch of experiments as well, where it's like a lot of like computer coded programs where you like press this or like react to certain images, and you have to press like certain buttons or something like that. Even within the psychology class, there were these studies that you could complete, and like they give you like some stimuli, and like they measure how your mind reacts to it and everything. Excuse me. And during that supportive therapy sort of process, for my research study, I was also, undergoing MRIs. I was undergoing other psychological sort of tests and stuff, other like neurological tests on my brain and everything. And that was sort of key to like, understanding my own self. And then 6 months go by. Then next 6 months I had cognitive behavioral therapy. I was like working with a psychologist who was specifically trained in cognitive behavioral therapy. And it was cognitive behavioral therapy is all about like different tasks you could take, right? So it's like graduate exposure, basically. Like, okay, you can't talk to a stranger, so like talk to this person before, talk to this, and then have those graduated steps towards building up that interaction and everything. Since my social anxiety was kind of bad, obviously there had to be these things, but it gradually got better, alhamdulillah, and like now it almost has faded away. And I remember it was still there, like at the time when I had like roommates and stuff like that, and I couldn't just converse with them and stuff like that. Couldn't find common ground, but after a while, I could a little bit, but it was not like the same thing that I would have with maybe people that had more like sort of common ground with. It was just like difficult doing that with like strangers and stuff. And sometimes like other people would tell me stuff about like a certain person, what a certain person said and stuff, and like if I knew of their hidden agendas, I was like, what is the even like worth of like sort of interacting with this person, stuff like that. Not in the context of my roommates, but in the context of other people. So, anyways, my roommates were amazing. They were really kind. They would sometimes give me food and stuff like that. There are other stuff that we would do and stuff. It's just not like going to be mentioned on the camera. Start of 2021 is like when my family returns to the United States, and I had to come back and live with them, and I've been living here ever since in Villa Park and stuff. And now I had to like undertake different responsibilities and stuff. Obviously I was grown up and everything, and it was nice living with them after so long and again. But like it meant also like taking away of like my complete freedom and everything, and like my limitless freedom and everything, where I was just like living on my own, doing everything on my own. It was like a lot of responsibility, right? So like that shaped my mind and everything. And now just living with parents again, it was like hard to adapt at first, but I could find like slowly found like a balance between like my own freedom and my own like what I wanted to do, and then also like undertaking family responsibilities and everything. So that was that. And then obviously I had like my old friends and stuff like that from UIC, from different parts of Chicago and stuff, that like carried on into this journey as well. And then I was still meeting them and stuff, made new friends, and then went on this like period of like new sort of, especially after that research study ended and everything, it helped me like socialize with a lot of people. Alhamdulillah, like now I can make connections easily and everything, and that really like I feel like really passionate about doing that, just because new connections open me up to new journeys, new opportunities, new everything, bro. Like people, communication and everything. Like communication is so amazing. And then also one key part that I left out in my journey was a public speaking class. So when I was in Willowbrook High School, right, I took this public speaking class speech. It was like required for all the people that went to high school. And some people would take the speech and tech option, but some people just to take regular speech. So I took regular speech. And even though my best friend was in that class, we sat in a different place and everything. And then it was like assigned seating, right? And then we had to like do those speeches. Sometimes the first one was an impromptu speech, and then I was really scared. I never done public speaking before. I was always, especially growing up in Pakistan and stuff, the teachers would never give me public speaking opportunities, just because they thought that I was too shy. I was like too cornered and everything. I was too isolated, too introverted and everything. I was like just too stupid and not underconfident to do public speaking, So they would never give me those opportunities, never had those skills developed. Anyways, do that. I would take that class in Willowbrook, impromptu class and everything. And I was really scared going to my first speech. I remember me and my friend like sort of rehearsed different topics for our speech. Like, okay, if this is our topic, what are we gonna speak upon? And we need to know like how to like come up with a lot of stuff out of thin air, when this topic comes. And how are we gonna manage like looking at the people and everything? And he's like, bro, I just don't even give a fuck about the people, just go there and speak your mind, and that's what I exactly did. And that's why I fucking love public speaking now. I took like another speech class at Glenbard East after that, just because it was not transferred over. And then fucking amazing, I fucking compiled those speeches with instrumental music, with cinematic music, had like so many artistic elements to it, and I added to that in such a powerful way that it made my public speaking really amazing. And then taking another speech class at UIC, just because that was sort of required for my like business curriculum, that was equally amazing too. And then just talking about stuff, and then making those, because I love PowerPoints. I love like making those PowerPoints really interactive and sort of really insightful and everything, with knowledge, with artistic elements, with clip art, with like my own photographic elements and everything. It was a great journey. Anyways, oh, I forgot to like mention also, my photography journey, right? So like this is something that was really core to me, while while growing up, even in Pakistan. I remember like ninth, 10th grade, I got the camera and stuff, started doing photo shoots on my friends and stuff, was limited to that, right? But then I even like partnered with my best friend in Pakistan and stuff to start like, this photography company and stuff. But before it could like grow to anything bigger, I left for the US, and then when I first came to the US and stuff, I did not know like how to do it on like professional scale. So I was just like doing it with my best friend, like my best friend over here, who I also lived with and everything. He was really passionate about photography too, and his own camera and everything. And we would go on photo shoots and everything. So that was really nice. We did that for so long. We delved into abandoned places while we were at UIC. Took pictures of that. We went on like a month-long trip to the Western US. That was one of the really huge transformative journeys of my life as well. It's because I got to meet so many different people from all over the world. People from Japan, bro. I'd never thought that I would meet like a person from Japan, a random hostel in San Francisco, but that happened. And seeing so many different landscapes all around the US, that's what opened my mind up. I'm like, bro, I fucking love traveling. I love seeing all these things, mountains, forests. I'm all about that, right? So really love doing that as well. That was like literally what 2011 was. This literally last year, summer of last year. And so as life progresses, that's the like one thing I've learned. Like you have to be headstrong in whatever you're doing. Like literally just trust yourself, trust God, and take the leap of faith. That's all you need. And other than that, like one of the biggest things that research study and other occurrences in my life taught me, that you have to be really self-aware, and self-accountable for yourself. There's some shit that you're doing that you may not be aware of, and you like destructive mechanisms in your life are built around that, are built around your lack of self-awareness, or built around your lack of self-accountability. So do not treat yourself like the absolute best and stuff like that. We all have our flaws and everything. Yes, be confident, take every fucking step and conquer every single thing. But at the end of the day, do not hurt people, do not hurt things, do not hurt like situations where you can control those things, and obviously this is a lesson for myself as well. But then within my transformative journey, one thing that I kind of fell off with right now, and like gradually I started off with that a little bit when I was finding my spirituality and everything. I delved into going to jamaats and stuff, which is something that you do, like some people do it as a part of like being a Muslim and stuff like that. Like certain Muslim like go to jamaat and stuff like that, they focus on their own building their own spiritual selves there, and like focusing on the betterment of others as well, just like a sort of dual process. I fell off from that, and then we have a whole different story about that we'll talk about later. But one of the most important things that I learned there is that want for your brother that you want for yourself, and another thing is that just don't we are so gratified around our own egos and around our own nuffs, that we always want the best for ourselves, but for someone else we're not going to want that. It's like insanely competitive sort of nature gets us, and then we're so wrapped around our own selves that it just becomes ridiculous at some point. But if you have self-awareness about that, you can tap out of that shit and be like, okay, I'm to just focus on building all of ourselves instead of just mine. And then what I learned was hukukul ibad. Hukukul ibad was the fourth facet of their 6 points or whatever. And this was that if you've hurt someone, if you've said something, done something that hurts another human being, you could be the most religious person out there. You could pray everything. You could pray your 5 daily prayers. You could pray extra prayers. You could do whatever is the best in spirituality in the terms of religion and everything, but you're not going to get forgiven on the judgment day. Another thing that sort of really was significant in my journey is that people will say anything, people will talk about anything. People are of different sort of, they come from different backgrounds, they come from different expertise, they come from different intellectual sort of capacities and capabilities. At the end of the day, not even your parents are subject matter experts on everything. So yeah, obviously they have their own wisdom and stuff like that, but the wisdom is not based on statistical significance. Statistical significance is only based on your own research. So like do your own research. It's based on research that exists out there and everything. So like do not just listen to someone and take the action just from that. You just heard like, okay, this person said XYZ, now you're gonna like become XYZ just based off one person. Nah, bro, they're not even credible. They're not even subject matter experts on that, you know? So like you're not like aware of who you're listening to. And if you are, then take the decision based on that, and then always have second opinions and stuff, you know, like from different people and stuff. That's why people have second opinions from doctors and stuff too, because they don't want to get like a crazy procedure that's just one person has recommended, you know. So it's always this thing that you should trust yourself and your own research and your own understanding of things, you know, and not just like be blinded. Blind, don't like trust and like sort of believe people and be blinded with whatever their statements or perspectives are just off the bat, you know. Have some sort of critical thinking sort of process built into it. And that is something that has led a lot of my conversation, a lot of my interactions too. I know if someone's bullshitting me. Like if someone's bullshitting me, bro, come on. Like I'm a grown up man. If someone's like doing bullshit, they're doing some messed up stuff. I recognize that, you know. Sometimes I won't say shit just because obviously me saying shit is gonna blow off their cover, and like, you know, sometimes people are not ready for that. Sometimes people are not ready for cognitive dissonance, you know. The cognitive dissonance is the sort of thing that you people want to be liked, right? People gradually like just naturally want to be liked, and if you give them this sort of side that okay, you're completely wrong, like here, these are all the facts and everything, they're when they see that they're wrong, they're not gonna like that, you know. It's gonna take them a hard time adapting to the fact that they're wrong, because some people are so within themselves, they are not gonna accept that they're wrong, you know. And then that is something that you have to be completely okay with at all times, you know. That self accountability, that you can be wrong at any time. Like all this shit that you've researched and you've thought about it, and you constantly sticking to this one's perspective, that could all be wrong, you know. That's why you have to think in sort of like gray perspective, where things are not always black or white, you know. There's always some gray in the matter, you know. And that that goes into a lot of different things and perspectives and conversations. So it's always important to remember that. But I think that is it for most of my journey. I know I've said a lot, but basically, this concludes the first podcast, the first episode of the SZ show. And yeah, please give me some feedback on whatever you guys you know, want me to talk about next, whoever you want me to bring upon next, and everything. And this is a platform for all of my friends, for anybody, literally anybody. I don't care, whoever you are on the internet. This is a platform for you to come here and then talk with me on any topic you want. We can just dive into different sort of sides of any conversation, any topic, any interaction. So I'm welcoming all of that. But thank you so much for listening to me, and I hope you guys have a great day for sure.